You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sunday morning comic talk with Sully. What up, Sully?
Hello.
Yes. What a week of comics. A lot of crazy things going on this week. Mainly, Mary Jane. Mary Jane being
she said in
Venom.
Revenge of the Nerds. Oh, fucking great.
Yeah, exactly. So with all this craziness, this week we always come on here to talk positive. We talk some positive deals. So again, I figured we'd talk a little bit at the beginning about just, standard deal and, the idea of what happened in comics. But then we're going to be getting into a couple books. They're Marvel books and maybe some things that people hadn't read or might want to check out. I'm not so sure about the one there, Sully. You ended up where you told me the two books that I was going to read special. And yeah, there's one that is, I think, a little bit better than the other one. I know you're going to know which one I'm talking about. But in the meantime, holy moly, yeah, it was a crazy week. DC had like a slow week.
Did you get to Resurrection Man?
Yeah, we had that on our Patreon spotlight. I liked it.
I did too.
Ram V's not a guy who I love. I have to admit that I don't often like his stuff, but I do like his indie stuff. And this kind of it did feel like an indie book. It felt like more of an indie book at DC, and it's Black Label. So it kind of is, but I liked it. I figured, there's things now that I've talked to you a bit where I'll read and I'll be like, oh, Sully will like this. Now, whether that means it has onomatopoeia, Jeff the Land Shark, or just the idea that it's a good comic is the deal.
Am I that predictable?
Not really. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. See, you're not as predictable. But yeah, that Resurrection Man was pretty good. DC had a weird week, though. There was a lot of these side books going on. You ended up having, Secret Six. You had Resurrection Man, JSA. Should be bigger, but the idea that that's kind of on the deal. But Two-Face, things like that. So when we went to do our DC Comics podcast, it was weird because usually you want to start the podcast off with an oomph. You want to have like a Batman or a Superman, detective. Well, one of those. And we started off with Secret Six because that was kind of the only book left after our Patreon spotlight that was seemingly like, oh, that's the biggest book. I'm like, whoa, this week is off. This one is a bit off there. Yeah. So
I got Absolute Superman 6. I've kept it on my poll list. It almost dropped off my poll list, but I'm giving it a chance. It's the only Absolute book I'm buying, and it's got to be it's a normal book this month.
It was okay. I wanted to see more. I was hoping the Kents had a bit more to do with Superman. It seems like he was there for a couple weeks almost, but I did like it. Me and Gray talked about it on our Absolute podcast deal, and I did kind of I didn't love the Absolute Green Lantern, and with these whole things of this second round of books, they're all starting very slow, even, and it's funny because Flash is the first one. Absolute Martian Manhunter, I think it's one of those where you're just going to like it or not like it. I can't convince people to like it or not like it. I didn't love it. I got to see how that goes. But Superman's actually picking up. It's one of the ones. It was my third favorite. It was my least favorite of the first three, and it's kind of picking up. But I do like Wonder Woman. And the art this past issue of Wonder Woman, I don't know if you looked at it. It was really, really good. And then also the Batman that everybody likes when Batman kicks babies. But yeah,
I like it that Wes likes Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah, he does like that.
He's giving praise to Kelly Thompson.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing because he's giving credit where credit's due.
It won't last
when it's worthy.
Because he hated it at the beginning. He won't read Superman. He liked me and him talk Batman when it comes out, but he's not really digging those things. But the last issue of Absolute Wonder Woman looked fantastic. So that was one of the big plays of it, of how good it did look. But, over at Marvel, we ended up where we got a bit of a complaint that we weren't taking enough of, paying enough attention to the Marvel books. I'm like, but Sully's already
Really?
coming on and talking 2 other ones with me. So Gray jumped in this week, and I ended up reading and reviewing a couple more books. We did review All New Venom. That'll be on the podcast when it comes out tonight.
Yay.
And yeah, that and
At
to
least you read it.
well, yeah, well, to review it, I had to read all the issues because I only
Yes.
read the first one.
Okay.
And so I wasn't, I wasn't up to speed on it. So I read it, and that made it worse. I'm
Yes.
going through this book of like, okay, is it Paul? Is it, Rick Jones? Is it this? Is it Madame
Why am
Mask?
I caring?
And then, and at the end, I realized I don't care. Then in this last issue, you end up having Robbie, who was one of the, suspects. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what oomph would you get from Robbie being Venom? You know what I mean? You'd get none. And then I realized as I'm going, I'm like, it's going to be Mary Jane. It was leaked. But the idea of that's the only one except Paul, maybe, that would have gotten some oomph. I still think maybe Paul should have been. I maybe go full out Venom villain type deal. Paul ends up with this genocidal nonsense that he does. But in the meantime, when we're talking about it, the reveal of Mary Jane was such a dud. But when it got there, now all I want is Paul to put on legit Mary Jane's, what's it called? Jackpot costume. I want him to put the lady costume on, and I want him to stuff it, and I want him to be Jackpot. That's all I want. And then with all that, though, it's such a. I said my main hot take on that was just they want Mary Jane to be able to be in books. If she's not with Peter, she's not even an Amazing Spider-Man, right? You don't really have her there. So they keep coming up with gimmicks to get her in. Get her with Peter, and then she's an Amazing Spider-Man, and then she's Mary Jane, and you have, whatever. But instead, they keep trying to come up with gimmicks to make her, almost like they seem to think she needs to be relative, but why? I don't know. Why make gimmicks? It's Mary Jane. The best Mary Jane is Mary Jane.
It's the publishing industry still.
It
It is
is.
about gimmicks, and
Well,
it is
it
about
is.
getting your attention, and it is about does it have your attention? A B C, A always B B C, closing always be closing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, you say
Like
that.
Barry Glenn Ross.
I think that what you have with Marvel is the always starting, because they always want to have a new number one, a new gimmick, and then it fades. People are going to grab this issue. It's the first appearance of Mary Jane, Venom. So they're going to grab the issue. They'll probably get the next one to see what is happening, and then I think it all fades away again. Just like Jackpot was, at least Venom has a set deal. You know what Venom is, right? Jackpot, I lost my mind because this whole idea of Jackpot was you have the spin, right? Hey, let's spin the wheel. It's like, boom, 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 and see what you get.
Chance Landis.
So what you would normally have would be, oh my God, I'm fighting Hydro Man. I'm going to spin the wheel. I hope it's something that could go against water. And you spin your wheel and suddenly something pops up that doesn't work well against water. Then you use Mary Jane's intelligence for her to figure out the twist that she could use that. Instead, they made it so she could respin. And it threw the entire concept of the character out. It threw it all out. So that was a huge mistake, even though the idea where I think that Mary Jane Jackpot was just bad anyway. Then they tried to tie her in with the whole play with Black Cat, but never really used her, her luck to kind of. It was bad, but there you go. You had a lot of things. Two-Face actually had there's a new Two-Face daughter, but that was kind of like a little kind of thrown in. Not much going on there. But of course, Sully ends up, and that's, people, Barlord's saying that he hears that most people are saying they're done with Mary Jane and All New Venom after this. They found out what it was. It is the idea of when you find out the mystery box ending, it is either going to be like, oh my God, more people will pile in, or, oh, that's it, and leave. And then I got the idea of leaving when I ended up at the deal. So, yeah, and we have Matt Fisher is in with a super chat that says the least 2 angry people from Thinking Critical. Now this makes a Sunday. Can we get a Venom comic? A Venom J is what he's saying. Yeah, and then the thing is, I just want Dylan maybe to just be back. I don't know. I do like. Me and you were talking the idea of having the Eddie Brock. the Eddie Brock Carnage book. We like
Right.
that, right?
Yes.
That's a
I was
see,
talking about it yesterday on West. They were like, they hit him up because it was, like peanut butter and jelly. We're talking about Venom. I'm like, yeah, but over on, Eddie Brock Carnage, it's like Dexter meets like,
yeah. See,
and
but
it's
that's a
like,
cool concept. And what they ended up doing on that was get the idea that fits. End up Eddie's not Venom. Carnage is not quite Carnage, and they kind of combine. And then Eddie's using that, like you said, Dexter deal, and it's more interesting. It feels like less of a gimmick than okay, this could work. I don't think it works forever, but it works enough. But I want to see Carnage now go against, Mary Jane Venom. Anything that you think of, like Spider-Man versus Mary Jane Venom. I don't see how
yeah.
Mary Jane Venom wins in the end, but it's going to be this elevation of her and how she's going to make the Venom symbiote great. And I
She'll
just
give Paul a symbiote baby to graft onto him, and
exactly that
because
would be
everyone
the
else has a
best.
symbiote out there.
Ay,
Hawkeye's got
ay,
one.
ay.
Black Widow's got one.
I still want
Um,
I want Paul to go out as jackpot, spin that thing once and die. That's all I want because here's if you remember
ooh,
too, just to go back to Jackpot with Mary Jane, at the beginning of Jackpot Mary Jane, they threw out the concept that there was one deadly combination. If she and it's,
right.
1
It's
in
like
10 trillion, it will kill her instantly. Paul then made a thing where, oh, I hacked into it. That's no longer a thing. Like,
okay.
why? You just introduce this stuff and it just ends up like, boom, it doesn't work. But Nick Lowe, I don't know. It doesn't it feel like they're like poking at people though? I mean, seriously, like he's like, oh, everybody wants
Yeah.
Mary Jane and Paul or Mary Jane and Peter together. We'll make her Venom. That's like such a swerve, but
Well, we're like I think the only people that read any of the Venom War stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in Venom War Spider-Man, Peter wears Venom like one
Hmm.
last time.
Yeah.
And even Venom is interested in his existing feelings for MJ.
Hmm.
And Venom mentions that to Peter. Like,
Maybe Venom's gonna try to kill Paul. Maybe that's
or
the
yeah,
deal.
or maybe like, because I'm of the belief now that like anything that, unless Venom's keeping it from MJ, she might have access to all of Peter's
Oh, you think
memories
that
and
she might
feelings and
have some
emotions.
memories and things, and that might end up making her
Yeah.
so this might be a backdoor
Yeah.
way of her going back to
Y-
Peter.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so.
That
See,
was my
that's a
that was my
positive spin.
yeah, that was my hypotenuse.
That's your hypotenuse. Now,
As
it,
Tigger would say.
exactly. And so, yeah, again, and of course, this is the bigger story, this week. But did you hear anybody besides, this is where I say where the story gets really big is all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden you're on Twitter X or you're looking and it goes beyond just us. You know what I mean? Like the geeks that are talking about comic books and things, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see much of, oh my God, Mary Jane is Venom as a bigger story. Like sometimes you'll have the
Right.
stories. I said one of the reasons why I realized that 8 deaths of Spider-Man was not hitting was because Peter legit died in it. He legit got killed in that story, and I didn't see anybody talking about it at all. And so
Yeah.
that kind of points out the idea like nobody's paying attention. People just roll
Nobody
their eyes.
cares.
Yeah, and
Um,
I hope even if it was the idea like, hey, we don't like them. Actually, you seem a little more, hey, open to this Mary Jane Venom.
yeah.
Like you'll say, let's see what goes on. And
Well,
I always go and say,
yeah.
you should be. Like maybe there could be some crazy story that comes out with if it gets Peter back with Mary Jane, then people might actually end up loving it. But it's one of those
Right.
weird deals where, yeah, you have to kind of have an open mind, but it's hard. It gets hard as it goes on. That's why I need you to talk to me because I don't have an open mind as much because you keep getting hit and hit and hit with these things where you're just like,
Right.
oh my
It's like,
God, like,
well, because with the outrage, we are kind of like, there is kind of an outrage cycle. There is something to that. And there is a lot of sensationalism behind what we do
yeah,
and where we come from and the spheres that we're part of.
yeah,
And so I hate to use the terms of modernity such as narrative, but that is quite literally our narrative in a way. And so, but sometimes we just need to remind ourselves to have more fun doing this. This is our hobby. It's supposed to be fun.
yeah.
And there is some fun out there if you find it. and it's not our fault as readers with expectations that um, these publishers, they're magazine publishers. I feel like our greatest fault as fans is that we forget that they're not, as much shepherds of our continuities. They are magazine publishers, and this is sensationalism. And
It is.
sensationalism has always sold copy. It has always sold magazines and newspapers. So this is like one of it's been a theory. The comic books might be the last man standing when it comes to periodical publications, such as the magazine,
The thing that
And
gets me though is you said it's sensationalism, and that so they're expecting a reaction, but then they get mad at the reaction. You know what I mean? Like, and even so, people who do, a lot of people who end up doing, especially YouTube, they're going to do their things as sensationalism as well. But yet the companies don't understand that. Like it's fine for them to poke at everybody and say, "Hey, look, Mary Jane's never going to get back with Peter. She's with Paul," and start laughing. But then when people react in that same way, but angry about it, they seem to get offended. And it goes, and I'll tell you right now, where I go with comics is how I go with sports. I think
Right.
that normally, now this changed recently in the past bunch of years, which threw me. I'm from Philadelphia. I love the
Right.
Eagles. I love all the Philadelphia teams, but I love the Eagles. They're my big team.
Congratulations on your
And
Super Bowl.
yeah, there you go. But there's nobody that's going to be more critical of the Eagles than me. Or fans, if you're really into it. I'm not one of those guys of like, oh, they played their hardest. It's okay. They lost 60 to
No, you're a
3.
Philly fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan. You're a Boston fan.
Expectation with your culture.
Yeah.
With
And so
we come from sports. We come from very vitriolic and toxic sports cultures,
Oh, we
especially
do.
sports radio.
Yeah.
I mean, so all of this toxic fandom stuff does not hold a candle
No.
to Flyers fans.
Oh my
or
God,
Bruins
Flyers fans and Eagles fans, Phillies fans and Sixers
Yeah.
fans are a little more low key.
Yeah, but
It's
I mean,
the
then
thing-
comes
yeah.
hockey and football.
Oh yeah, hockey and football, and
the
I think
real
it
blue college sports.
football especially because it's such a smaller schedule. Then you have to, every game means something, so you go
Then
nuts.
you have like the whole reputation of Bobby Clark and the Broad Street Bulls
Yeah, Broad
of the
Street.
70s.
He'll never give it up. He'll never
And
give it up.
That's just,
Yeah,
and then you had Eric Lindros and,
Yep.
and the Legion of Doom. You have this,
Yeah.
ongoing hope that one day, Lord, when was our
Yeah,
time?
exactly. And people they'll handle the idea with the Broad Street Bullies is they won. So it's like, oh my God,
Right.
all my childhood, that's all you hear about. And I'm not a big thug guy in hockey, especially when I
Right, but,
played. So I didn't go with that. But as I'm saying, the idea where I would, if the Eagles lose, and I think like, oh my God, they had a loss, if people are familiar, they had a loss against the Redskins this year, which was the complete utter bullcrap. It drove me nuts. And afterwards, you could not get near me without me yelling about how much I was, oh my God, they suck, all this stuff. But if somebody else then came into the room and said, hey, those Eagles, them's fighting words. It's not, and this is how I go to comics. I'm not arguing or complaining about comics because I hate them. I'm complaining and arguing because I love them and I want them to be better. And that's where I
Right.
think some places lose that a little. You know what I mean? They kind of lose a bit of the, the idea of liking it so much that you're upset it's bad, but now it becomes the I just want to hate on everything is why I ended up asking you to do
Well,
this
it's
show
just
and
like-
be a little more
'cause
positive.
we are the ones yelling from the cheap seats, saying, "Hey, you guys suck!
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know how to shoot the puck!
Yeah.
Come on, hit him! Wide open!"
And Matt Fisher has a
You know?
super chat. He said, here's the thing. We had 74 Nick Spencer issues saying this works, and then we get Rec Rap. Yeah, I know we have USM, but it's not the same. The next movie has Sadie Sink as MJ. Go with synergy. And
I hope she's going to be Angelica Jones.
yeah,
And it's Peter's, year. It's Peter in college, and his roommates are Angelica and Bobby, and go with that.
man. And Barlord and Tevye are even saying and replying to him. And
Hello,
it is
everyone in the
true.
chat.
There is a lot of times where you do say, if you don't like something, then you can't stop buying it. But that's so tough. I said with me, Spider-Man and Batman, first off, I say it all the time. I think that Nick Lowe takes complete, advantage of very loyal fans with Spider-Man fans. But the idea for me, and it's different for everybody, but if I have a pull list, I'm into comics and my favorite character,
True.
Spider-Man. if I, as a like, say, I'm not going to support this anymore, which you probably shouldn't, but if you don't do that, do you just give up on comics then?
True,
Because
but
that's your big
let's go back to
character.
Nick Lowe just for a second, though. And let's not lose we as fans with our expectations and our love of these stories, and we're embedded. But Nick Lowe, he's a magazine publisher,
Yeah,
and his job is dependent on his role is all about selling copy and
it
selling,
is.
and units moved and paid circulation. I mean, people forget about the term paid circulation.
Mhm.
Yes, 400,000 copies of Hush
Yes.
Batman
Yeah. Oh,
158
that's
moved. But
big.
what is the paid circulation? That is the number that you really want to know.
Yeah, the thing though is the idea with the Amazing Spider-Man right now, if you look at the rankings and look at the things that are available, it's not up there anymore. And that's
Mm,
where you would think that somebody has to go to them, and either they have to say to Nick Lowe, you got to change things, get things a little more, better, or you're done. But it doesn't seem like the idea of the Amazing Spider-Man changing until Nick Lowe leaves. People keep
but
telling me that.
but probably to his bosses, he looks like he's doing his job
Maybe.
well.
Yeah,
He's
it's weird
selling
because it's
copies the
not
best.
selling as much.
It's
It's fallen out of the top 10, it seems, and
Yeah,
that
but it's
seems
got to
weird.
be Marvel. It's still Marvel's
Oh, yeah,
flagship
well, it's
title.
still the flagship deal because that's the funny thing. You throw something out, and Marvel, when you see these sales numbers, the worst part of it is they're killing DC. They're still winning, so it's tough. But I will tell everybody before me and you jump into these books that we're going to be talking about, which are maybe hidden gems. Maybe me and Sully may actually argue for the first time on the show about
I
what we're
just have
talking
good
about.
things
But
to say about a bad comic, to be honest. I mean,
uh,
I think you can have sometimes bad comics can be fun,
oh yeah, yeah.
and
I will get into it, but I've read next week's Spider-Man. I actually got a copy
ooh,
of Spider-Man #1 by Joe Kelly. I have read through it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I don't know that people are going to be like, "Oh my God, this is the breath of fresh air," because of the idea. First off, he was part of that 8 deaths, which was terrible. This is a
mhm.
little better. I'm really anxious to see what people think of it when it does come out. Pepe Larraz on art, I think people will like or dislike. I know Doc
Yes,
hates him. So there's going to
okay,
be people who are already like against it, but some of the art, but it's a weird play. It's like some of it's good, but then other things seem to be not the greatest things. And from talking with people of what people want from the Spider-Man deal, it does seem it seems okay. I really wanted to read it and be wowed. I was really excited. I end up, a guy sends me copies ahead of time sometimes, and I usually don't read them because I'm like, I'm going to wait till they come out, see what's going on.
hmm
But this is so big, I wanted to read it, and I really
right,
wanted to like read it and say, all right, we're in for some good times. We're ready to go.
yeah,
And it just felt like, yeah, I don't know. Again, I think that he tries to be too Deadpool-y at points.
uh
And
huh,
also, I think that he tries to get like, hey, I'm going to talk to the young kids around here. Hello, fellow kid type deal. And I thought that it was kind of that as well. But I do think that there will be people who will like it a little more. It has some energy to it, at least. It does have like a frenetic type energy, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we go into that. But the books that you ended up telling me that you like, and just as an aside, just one last thing, I'm going to
yes,
have my best of the week tonight.
uh huh.
Tonight
Ooh,
on the
what
channel, I'll
time?
be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
Indeed.
Gray's going to actually join me. He usually
Oh, it's
can't,
very
but
nice.
he's going to join me because, as usual, it seems like Japan has festivals and holidays all the time. In
Hmm
my mind, they have a festival or a holiday tomorrow, so he's off from school, so he doesn't have to teach. So me and him will be talking some books, and one of the books that I do want to give a shout out to, that is one of the things even when I was on the aficionados at times, that I've stated that I'm not really down with Jed McKay much right now, and
Right.
mainly talking about the Avengers and X-Men, but I fell off of the Moon Knight stuff because they kept
Yes.
changing. I mean, every new time that you say, okay, we're going to have a new #1 with the same creative team, I get the idea of, yeah, I think I'm done with this, because again, it's that idea of trying to sell, like you said. And
Mhm.
so when he died, came back, it just seemed so artificial. But I hadn't been reading. But Grace said, "Oh my God, you need to read this week's issue." And I caught up, and I do think this Fist of Khonshu is really good. But boy, this issue, if you haven't even been reading, if you read, and you read it, right? The Moon
Yes.
Knight, it's fun. It is a
It's got a lot
fun
of
issue because it's 8 Ball. And he
right.
is hilarious. And what I like about what Jed MacKay does in this issue is he actually has fun with 8 Ball. They kind of make fun of him a little, but at the end, he's actually the genius that gets this plan to work. But also, they show his genius when he's talking to Nadia about jet propulsion. I really liked it. I thought it was
Mhm.
really, really good. Probably my book of the week. So I think that if you haven't been reading it, just a shout out, you should go and check it out because it's really, really a good. The funny thing too, Fear Monarch said, "I'm busy with things, but
Hello.
reading Monkey Meat, so it can make best of the week just in time." I have been wanting to read. Have you read any of that? I think it's
No. What
Image,
is it?
Monkey Meat. It
Mhm.
sounds dirty. It sounds like a song I would write. But I
Mhm.
actually, a bunch of people said that we should read it or I should read it. So I will check that out. And yeah, end up where Jargon 2, and hello, he said hello to
Hello,
us,
Link Kramer.
said that Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu is actually one of the underrated books out there. And it's weird because Jed
Mhm.
MacKay's Moon Knight
It
was
got a
like the
lot
big
better
thing,
when it
right?
went to Fist of Khonshu.
Yeah.
I think
And
I caught on with it. Like from I read the end of his last volume, but I really started feeling like better as a reader and more hooked into it
mhm,
at the new number one at the Fist of
yeah.
Khonshu. Mark Spector's back from the dead again,
hmm
and but it's more interesting with him. Like that volume without Mark Spector and with the false Moon Knight with the
Yeah,
moonlight
yeah,
missing,
yeah, yeah.
that was boring
Yeah, it
because you
was.
don't have it's not Moon Knight.
I dropped
You
it.
know.
I ended up dropping it because there's so many books. Also, I
Mhm.
still go with the fact that Jed MacKay's not great with villains. The villains that he comes up
Uh,
with are not great, but when he has a
they're always too
team,
sympathetic, huh?
man, when he has a team, it works. In this issue, if you did read his Black Cat, that's what this reminds me a lot of. This
Mhm.
issue reminds me of his, first that Black Cat run. Again, they kept coming back with it, watering it down. Then, it ended
Right.
up MJ jackpot got him but the original stuff. This is what it reminds me of. And I think he needs like a street level quirky team to work. The Avengers and the X-Men, I
Yeah.
think, are too big. I think they're
I
too
mean,
big
yeah,
for him. And
the Moonlight Mission or team is a lot more fun than his
yeah.
Avengers team or his X-Men team.
Yeah, yeah, and Jagrod
Yeah.
too said that 8 Ball is great in the issue, and it's funny because he kind of comes up with this idea with that before he tells everybody, and he's like doing like the framing, like he's a director. He's like, "Okay, you're Chalk." And
Yeah, he's making his
I
friends
thought it
dress
was
up
good.
in aliases, and
Yep, yeah,
it's fun.
and
Yeah, it
again,
is fun.
before we get into these books, the idea of all this is a weird play because you couldn't get away from people talking about Moon Knight and Jed MacKay. Oh my
Right,
God,
for a
Jed MacKay,
while,
Moon Knight,
yeah.
Jed MacKay. And then because of the death and it just new number ones, they lost track and it
And
became
it was Bloodhunt's fault. I think Bloodhunt
yeah
derailed everything,
again a Jed
and
MacKay
McCabe
thing.
did
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That
not
was
very
his
good.
event.
And
Yep.
Jagron said it's an underrated book now. It's weird that it's underrated
Mm.
because of the idea that it was so big at one point, and then it kind of people got lost with it. But I really do like it and think if you haven't been reading it, check that out because it is really, really good. What were you going to say, Sully?
Oh no, I was just I forgot, to be honest. It
I,
happens.
I end up talking too much. But we're going to get into these books that you suggested. Not suggested. I went through and you end up, and if you're on Wes's Patreon, we go through the books and we have a Hot or Not podcast. And during that, I give the Sully report because
That's awesome.
you end up telling me what you thought. And you read almost every book.
I figured this out a couple of months ago because Wes is coming at me with like my own words,
Oh yeah, he would know.
blindsiding me with
And
like
it is funny.
you like
Oh yeah.
you like Rise of Skywalker and you didn't read Hush, and I'm like, and now
Exactly.
everyone thinks I'm a Disney Star Wars fan.
That
I'm
is
like,
true. Yeah, that is
no.
crazy that you read the Rise of
Yeah,
Skywalker
I'm
tie-in and didn't read Hush
interested.
too.
Yeah,
But that's what makes you Sully. That's
thank
what
you.
makes you
I
Eric
bring a
O.
certain light.
Sullivan. And
I'm
I
a
love it
Sully
when
from Salty, and welcome to it.
yeah.
We bring the good times. I mean, I'm a lifelong comic book fan. I love this stuff.
So
You know what I mean?
you end up suggesting, well, you tell me what you think. And to let everybody know, this isn't the idea that Sully says, so-and-so book is great, and I write back,
I write some
oh, I
vicious
agree
shit
with
too.
you. I tell you,
I
you're
mean,
full of
I
crap.
can be really mean.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
can
you
be.
get
I have
upset.
dude. I can rip a comic apart, man, literally and figuratively. And like, have you ever read some of my more negative shit?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I
Oh,
read it
cool.
all. And that's the thing I tell. It's not just the Sully happy report. It's the Sully report. I read everything word for word, and then I laugh. But
And
yeah.
it's like the way I get into Ultimate X-Men, which came out this week, and it was beautiful, and it's stronger, but still I have the same problem that I've had.
You are
Yeah,
insane.
sorry.
And so when we go into this, I'm going to go. But Jagron 2 actually said, have we read Red Hulk 2 yet? And we actually reviewed it. Now, this is the thing. We were, and I have to tell everybody, I apologize for last week with the live stream. The thing got cut off because my internet went down.
Us. We had some technical
and remember when we got back on and then it went off again? Remember that? And that's when we decided we're just going to do it. So our actually deal is up on the channel as a regular video. And we do talk about Red Hulk 2, I believe. Well, I think that's what we were talking about, right? What happened was the internet went out, right? So I freaked out. I'm like, what? Because it shouldn't go out. But my kids are redoing the house. So I thought at first that they turned off the electric because I have a bit of a backup here, but it's not part of the router. But I go up, the router's on, it's blinking, all these things. So I'm like, So then I have to text my wife, did you pay the bill? And I was so angry. I was like, if she didn't pay the bill, because that's one of the... God. So I send her a thing, did you pay the bill? And then she writes back, yes, I don't know what's wrong. So then I come down, I reset the router. We're about to go again. When it went off again was her remotely resetting the router again because she didn't know I had already reset it. So I was like, she cut us off again. I was like, you ruined it. But that's what ended up happening. But we're going to get into these books. We'll go through these pretty quick.
These books?
Yeah. Well, we're going to...
you like tape the CDs?
Yes. That actually...
Nuts.
That sounded like you were doing a little George Harrison take on that deal. But
my sweet love.
Here we go. This is the one. I'm going to have a big problem with Sully with this one. It's
see these nuts.
Marvel Rivals.
Really want to see these nuts and I can't go on. Oh my God.
Sully ends
Are we
up
doing Rivals?
Yeah, oh yeah. Sully ends up sending me a thing and says, hey, this Rivals is great. You know why I like it. Jeff the Land Shark's in it. So I'm like, okay, that's a trip right to Sully's heart. That's just it. That's Sully in a nutshell. So speaking of a nutshell, you also get Squirrel Girl in this. You get a lot of characters. Now, it's written by Paul Allore, art by Luca Claretti, colors by D. Cuniff, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. For the most part, the most person I know of in that is Joe Sabino. I know I've heard Paul Allore before, but I don't remember saying, oh my God, I love Paul Allore's writing. But when you get into this, it is Marvel Rivals. If you played the game, I'm sure you'll like it more. I have never played the game. So I'm an adult. I'm an adult, Sully. I don't have
time to game right now. I could game.
Yeah.
I heard it's fun.
Yeah, I hear it's fun too. I don't have time either. So in this though, and I do have on the screen a visual. I have a little collage of the book. Some of the things cover. You see Jeff the Land Shark. But please, everybody, take notice of the immense dialogue that is in this book. That's one of the biggest things. That's one of the only things that I thought that I would say, God, you got to calm down a bit with this because it is a all ages book, right? It's fun. You have a lot of crazy characters in it, but boy, it is talky. It is real talky as you go through. And at one point I was a bit overwhelmed with the amount of dialogue because it's 40 pages and I was reading. I'm like, all right. And I got a little lost in the story as well.
It's a $6.99 book too. And I think, man, they could have made that cheaper, because you want to sell this to people. Yeah. Or maybe,
you want to sell it to kids. I mean, you have these characters and I jump in and
I'm
not playing
this game.
Yeah. You want to go with it, but the dialogue is so much, but it still ends up having some fun. It's just, again, it's one of those where because it was so long and it's expensive, I just wonder if it was the best way to do this. And it seems to be continuing. And I just kind of wish that it was a little bit tighter, a little bit like it seemed very scattered in some things with characters. But again, it feels like a video game. So I have to say that it does do what it's supposed to do, but it
Right.
just was really odd. But the whole play of them in the Tokyo 2099, I thought that was really cool. And then you have the characters being thrown in, and you have the big play is this Penny Parker, who in her multiverse, in her universe, her dad was Richard Parker, and ends up not being either the greatest of guys or whatever. So when she sees Peter, when she sees Spider-Man, she thinks that that's just an alternate version of her father.
Of her dad, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the big like rub of the whole issue of her going, and I do like her. I do
You
think
have
that
the
she's
different
pretty
Spider.
fun.
You get like it was like Spider-Man versus, Spider Girl.
Yeah, yeah,
What-
yeah. And so in this, if you're not aware and if you haven't played the game or whatever, it is just like it feels like Spider-Verse. It's all based on that, the web and things, and they're trying to, they're trying to save the web of light. But in fact, Penny's like, I want to destroy it, and everybody's going back and forth with that. But you do get some really cool characters, and I do think that the art fits the idea of a video game. It does fit the motif of it. It's not the greatest of art, but it fits what it is. But throughout the whole deal, you are just going to get kind of these little, I would say, vignettes where all of a sudden you jump in and, hey, there's Old Man Thor. And then, hey, there's, what I said, Squirrel Girl shows up and whatnot.
Yeah.
But your big thing, and probably the best part of it, not also to mention, it's all being narrated by the girl Galactus Galacta.
Right.
She's cute. I think that
Wicked
she's
cute,
cute.
yeah.
And what you get in this too is I think that as I'm going through, I'm like, I'd like a plushie of her. Or I'd like a figure. It's kind of neat. Namor and Jeff the Land Shark are the best part of it.
Great team up. Yeah.
They're the best part of it. And I'm like, oh, Sully, you son of a gun. Anything with Jeff the Land Shark you enjoy.
It's
But
cute, yeah.
I'll say right now, this might be my favorite Namor that's in comics right now. So, because I don't like that
Cool.
Jason Aaron book, so I did like this. But the big play is that he actually takes Jeff the Land Shark seriously. Actually looks at Jeff the Land Shark as like a serious deal when the others didn't. At one point, they even say he can't, track down anything. He's a land shark, but he can. They wanted to find Wolverine. But I do like the weird play. This is what I thought was the most clever thing of the entire issue is that Jeff the Land Shark, being a shark on land, something that's stuck between the land and the sea, is
Got
kind
paws
of
like a dog.
it's kind of like Namor's deal. He's the same, or Aquaman even, the stuck
Yeah, the
between
two
sea
worlds,
and
right.
land, the two worlds. And Namor recognizes this as like, all right, let's
him.
go, and actually ends up liking Jeff. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like tell me why you liked
Crappy
it.
story, but held together by these by snappy dialogue and
Yeah.
these cute little character moments. And I really like the design of the costumes too.
Yeah,
I mean that
Oh,
really
yeah.
hooked me.
Yeah,
I
they're
love a good
good.
Spider-Man alternate.
And you have
And-
Iron Fist fighting Doctor Strange. You get a lot of fights and Hulk
I
fighting
mean,
everyone.
Wolverine
right?
has done absolutely no justice in there. He's very weak in this book. But you know what? Like I'm not. I give it like a 6.5 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd probably
It's-
give it a
it's fun.
6. It's fun.
You
The whole
know,
play
and
of it,
it's
it's just,
stupid.
it's what it's supposed to be. But you even
Yeah.
have Squirrel Girl shows up and she's like, hey, I'm going to crack some nuts. You get funny stuff like that. And she goes, I'm all out of nuts. And they're like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
And then she's like, no, just starts throwing the acorns and the nuts and things like that. So that was good. And even Luna Snow actually says, hey there, Thor. And there's this weird thing of like, yeah, I often get mistaken for Thor. And what Squirrel Girl says, that's not true, and everybody laughs at that. But that's kind of the things. I think it gets lost a bit in
Yeah.
the oversized
piece
deal
of
and the
Venom,
dialogue. Yeah,
Like Venom being Venom,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and then but you have this like kind of like this pithy throwaway understory, but it's a video game story.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's meant to appeal to. This is made for the general audience.
Yeah.
So this is what probably why I appreciate and respect this a lot more. That it's very verbose. It's very wordy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a $6.99 comic book. It's 40 pages, so you are kind of getting bang for buck here. And this is going for, like I said, this is going for the general audience, and I really appreciate that. There are very iconic, very versions of these characters.
Mhm.
The most iconic. I mean, that this Hulk is not Philip Kennedy Johnson's Hulk, but it's like
no.
this is like an iconic banner, an iconic Hulk as well.
They they go at
You
the one
know,
point about the fastball special, and Hulk just grabs Venom and
yeah,
is going to throw him, and he's like, "Not me, idiot!" And then throws.
it's too
Actually,
hard.
doesn't know how to do it and throws Wolverine right through a building. He doesn't even get
Yeah,
him. Like he just throws him too hard. And some of the things in the chat. Fear Monarch said that Sully would be proud he got a new short box and has Jeff on it from Rivals. So you have
nice.
that.
Oh,
And then
cool. I'll look for one of those.
he
Yay.
also asked, "Hey, is Squirrel Girl as thick as her in-game model?" She is indeed. I
She's
actually
kind
thought,
of like
yeah,
Erica
she's yeah,
Hendrickson-ish here.
she's bigger. I ended up thinking
Yeah,
like, oh, and I didn't even know that that was a thing in the game, and I'm like, yeah, she's pretty thick. And
yeah.
yeah,
And
Fear
then
Monarch, that's the thing. I don't play video games. I'm an adult. I
yeah,
just read comics. So
and it ends farcically
yeah,
and with like, it says continue the adventures in the video game. So this is just a one
yeah, it's
shot.
a one shot. I said that it was
Um,
continuing, but yeah, you're right. It says continue in the video game. But Comic Book Muscle actually says, why didn't they time this for the release of the game? It's
well,
again, you
it
want to,
can
he
take
says
off.
they're always a day late and a dollar short.
Hmm.
Yeah, just look at that Rise of Skywalker tie-in comic. It's
5
coming out
years
now.
after.
They're weird with, but DC,
Well, they have to do something with it. They
man,
produced that 5 years ago. They've been sitting on that.
yeah, really.
That was solicited 5 years
I
ago.
know it's ridiculous. DC's kind of at one point. I remember when they came out with the Supergirl show, they didn't have a Supergirl comic going at that time, and it was like, oh, and then they threw a digital one out, and they don't time things as a good. But Fear Monarch says he's going to buy the issue. I think it's because of the thickness of the
That-
Squirrel Girl.
I want to buy this for one of my nephews or my nieces. I mean, my nephew or my niece.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like just
Well,
I
when
say
they,
that like because I'm an only child, and these are the now teenage kids of my best friends growing, knowing them
okay,
20,
yeah,
30
yeah,
years.
okay,
So it's like, what I mean? I have an
yeah,
avuncular. I grew up with these kids, and I've always been giving them These are the kids I give comic books to. When
okay,
I say I'm giving a comic book to my niece, she just turned 16. My nephew just turned 15. And I've been
okay.
giving them comics all their lives,
Now tell me
and it's
though.
a nice thing.
Tell
Yeah.
me, if you give them something that's crap, did they tell you, or do they tell you everything you give them is good? Because I need them
I
to
never
be
really. It's
critical.
interesting because I don't want to push it because kids are kids, and I don't want them to think there's something obligatory, like there's a conditionality to, here, read this and tell me what you think. I just give it to them,
No, yeah, because
and
I would
without
have liked to hear
expectation.
what they say about this. I'd like to see
And
if
their
they
parents
like
will
it. Or,
say, "Oh yeah, they liked it," like
well,
Brother Blithely. But it's more of like, I would love to hear from the kids. What did you think?
well, speaking
You know.
of which, a book that's they're a little old for it, I guess. But
Mhm.
on the DC podcast this week, I end up reviewing the Teen Titans Go #2. I reviewed the first one, and
Oh,
not as a
cool.
joke, but kind of like this is something we would never review on the show. But because Eric had quit, I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I really liked it. And this issue is really good as well. And I'd like to see if anybody had gotten that for a kid or whatever, because that one I think people, kids would love. It's like the TV show. It's 100% the TV
Right
show.
And
And
now,
what's that?
who is with Rocket Raccoon? Is that supposed to be Frank Castle
Yeah, I think
at the
so.
end of it?
Yeah,
Because
I
I thought
think
it was
so.
like Crossbones for a second with the thing, because it was just like, but no, the more that I think of it, if I'm looking at him iconically, that's like Frank Castle's,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
and the skull things on his face
yeah.
in white paint. So it's just like it's an
Yeah, it is kind of
interesting way
weird.
to.
Yeah, I'm
I
looking
can
at
see
that
the
now.
teeth
I'd
marks
have to
now.
see. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks more like a
like
Punisher logo. The
rockets
more
yelling.
blowing it up to 400%,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's a Punisher.
And
Okay,
then at the end, you even have the Fantastic Four and stuff. And hey, let's get
and
going
that
and go in there.
great. I mean, I love the design of these costumes. I love Reed looking very masculine.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Very superhero like. I love the design on Ben.
yeah. I do too.
Because that's not traditional.
But again, you didn't give this a 10. We ended up
No,
where.
I wouldn't, because it's dumb, but it's fun dumb.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
like opposed to something else that came out this week, my first real exposure to Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur
Hmm.
in the 10th anniversary special.
Yeah, and that's a
And
character that lo and behold, I do like. A lot of
really,
people don't like
because
her.
you
I
you
do
like
like
you
her.
like these young characters.
I do, because usually I find that they have a little more enthusiasm. You don't get the mopey, thing with that. They're all excited and they mess
Right.
up. They're not always the greatest. They mess up unless again they get elevated in a weird way. But the other stuff, I didn't read this week yet. I'm going to read it this
Okay.
afternoon.
I
But
found her to be unlikable, and
yeah,
but it's more of like I guess my very I guess unfortunate allegory is this like does one of the writers have an autistic child who's really brilliant but has no social skills? You know what I mean?
maybe.
And it's kind of unlikable, but but she's my kid. You know what I mean? Of course I love her.
Yeah.
And so Moon Girl like plays a dirty trick on the superhero community for them to all show up for her birthday party, which
Okay.
is you know what I mean. So it's kind of selfish, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
really like Moon Girl, and I forget. I think it was in the what was that crazy that Thor big Thor type event that Jason
Uh-huh.
Aaron had. The what was it called? The War of the Realms. That big
Okay.
event. I think it was in that where Moon Girl goes and she's hanging out with Reed, and Reed has to say, "You're the smartest one of the," and people lost their mind because he said,
Well,
"You're
I don't
smarter than
mind that
me."
she's smarter than Reed,
Yeah,
because
people
she is
lost
young.
their
She is a
mind in
kid.
that, but I
There's
I do like the character. It's just that again, sometimes she's written well, sometimes she
yeah.
isn't written well at all, and I haven't really liked some of the. She's not really featured a lot. That's the funny thing. You have an anniversary, and she really hasn't had a
Mhm.
book in a while, so you end up having that. So is it really an anniversary? She's just been hanging. But I do like her. I like Gabby.
Right.
The deal. Wolverine and Honey Badger. I don't go by Scout, but I like her, and a lot of people don't like her either. It's just I like those younger characters, and her Gabby with Deadpool is like the greatest team up ever because they like each other and they start telling each other how like you end up where Deadpool had his mask off at one point, and everybody was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh my god!" And
Yeah.
she's like, "You're beautiful, like you're great," because she's all scarred up, and he's like, "Your
Aw.
scars are cool," and it's really nice. It's really nice the way that they do it. But we'll go on to the next book, which is a little
Yeah.
better. And
And
and again, it has a bigger
just
purpose, kind of.
just let me say thank you for Jeff the Land Shark. I mean, what a stupid but fun character. It just reminds me because it's all show don't tell, so it's pantomime,
Mhm.
and um and it's very Sunday comic book Sunday funny page to me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. You
because it's
always
got
like
that
Jeff the Land
quality.
Shark. I like when
Yeah,
Jeff
but
the
that's
Land
why
Shark
I liked
showed
him. I've
up,
been
and
thinking about giving a better
yeah,
answer. Like,
like
why the hell do you like Jeff the Land Shark of all things, man?
yeah,
You're weird. But I'm like, no, I have a solid reason. Jeff the Land Shark reminds me of Jim Davis's Garfield. He
yeah.
reminds me
That's
of
who you go
Odie.
with. Yeah, yeah.
Odie, you know what I mean?
Yep,
Odie was so expressive. Odie never had dialogue, but he was one of the most important characters in that strip.
yep.
And so I really have a feel like I loved Odie, and I think that's the key for me loving Jeff the Land Shark. Just put
It
it out
might
there.
it might end up being because it's a Kelly Thompson character. She created Jeff the
Right.
Land Shark, so it might
I
be
hope
like
she's
her
listening.
lasting legacy, Jeff the Land Shark.
Why
And
not?
it's
Worse. I hope
when
she gets a shitload of money for the in perpetuity. You know,
yeah,
like
there you go.
the DC boys get like the Red Lantern creators and stuff. They get like mucho dinero. They get a good check every year from DC
There you
for
go.
creating a sustainable IP that's very marketable.
And Jeff
And
the
Jeff
Land
the
Shark
Land Shark
is
is.
marketable. Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
plushies and
plushies,
things like that.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. And when he
That's why I
showed,
would give this to a boy because he gets great Spider-Man notes, and then I would give this to a girl because it's got Jeff the Land Shark and Squirrel Girl. So I think this is made for the general audience. This could appeal to young boys, young girls. This is good comic in
yeah,
that way. It's not a great story, but I mean,
how
I think it's a
dare
good
you
comic.
section that out that a girl or a boy could not like Jeff the Land Shark?
How dare you?
How
I
dare
like Jeff
you?
the Land Shark, and I
Sully,
got too many
I,
testicles to care about
when
land
Jeff
shit.
the Land Shark showed up in that West Coast Avengers book, which wasn't great, but it was kind of funny. People forget of Brodock, the
Uh-huh.
teen Modoc that was only there for kissing. I'm
Oh,
telling
gee.
you, it made me laugh so much, and hugs, and it was so
Well,
ridiculous.
thanks for
It
letting
was
me
so
tell the world
so
about what's
ridiculous. But yeah, Jeff the Land
about
Shark.
Jeff the Land Shark. I mean, because it's because we're in the comics aficionados. We bust balls. That's what we do. It's
Yeah,
like being on a wrestling show. You know what I mean? And being like, you're always slinging it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. So again, yeah, Jeff the Land Shark again is I liked him at first. He did get
Hmm.
overexposed, but in a weird way. What it was even in the Black Widow book that Kelly Thompson then did next. She ended up having like every issue had a Jeff the Land Shark kind of Easter egg and things. So I was like, okay.
Uh-huh.
And then it got the deal. But then once she's gone off to DC and things like that, this was okay, though. I do like him with Namor. But yeah, I kind of like, all right, I get it. I get it. He's cute
I hope
as
she's
hell.
getting a lot of money from Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, we'd have to
You know what I
see.
mean? Because
We'd
that
have
was
to-
her. She's the creator.
And Fear
that
Monarch said that he was always a normal guy. So take that, there, Odie.
Normal.
Take that, Odie. But we're gonna go.
I'm cute.
We're gonna go to the next book, and the book that will, go
Whatever
a little
happened to
more in
Leiden?
depth.
I think
Yeah.
John and Leiden were actually a gay couple, and that was we've seen
Okay.
gay coding.
And
All of
I thought that was actually just
and they broke up.
Johnny Rotten, if it was John Leiden. But you end up
No,
where
Leiden was Odie's owner, and then he
Okay.
goes away.
I
Like,
don't know.
continuity wise, we never find out what happened to Leiden.
That's crazy.
John got stuck with Odie, and
Oh.
Odie,
And there you go. You're stuck with him.
see?
The-
They broke up or something. Yeah.
Maybe. The last book we're doing is Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe one last time. It is written by Cullen Bunn. Dalibor
fun.
Talajic on art, colors by Lee
Yeah.
Lowridge, letters by Joe Sabino. And the thing is that Cullen Bunn has done a bunch of these. He's had
Right.
even like one of the ones that I had read most recent, but it was years ago, was I think it was Deadpool Kills the Classics. And it was Deadpool going through like Moby Dick and going through like all these classic literature things. So it is a character that you can use to do
Right.
this a lot. You can end up having
I'm
them
really
go
unfamiliar
through
with the
these.
whole Deadpool kills line
Mhm.
as well. I've never read Deadpool. There's a lot of them, aren't there?
Oh yeah.
There's
And-
an original Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe.
Yep.
Deadpool kills Marvel Zombies.
Yep,
Was that it?
there was. I'm telling you, there's a lot. This is supposed to be the end of a trilogy of Cullen Bunn. Just Deadpool
Okay.
kills the Marvel Universe. So one last time, and I think that if you have read, it really feels like a lot of these are. I think people even with no hype or anything saying this again, because this is what always happens. But it was
Sure.
decent enough. And
But it
actually, if you
worked.
want to have some wow moments of characters and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and play off the idea of what we had recently in the movie, and even I'm gonna say even in that Rivals book this week, the idea of saving the multiverse because there's too many things. And what happens in this book is funny because it seems like what Cullen Bunn is doing is saying, listen, there's too many variants of these.
Right.
It's a complaint of fans. There's too many variants. There's too many things going on. So you end up having this character, Alfie, show up and needs Deadpool. I have a list of people you have to kill. And as you go, you kind of realize, okay, it's almost like cleaning up the continuity, cleaning up the multiverse of all these other
Right.
things to save the 616. The problem is, at the end, Deadpool ends up in the 616 and looks like he's going to try to kill everybody there, but he's
And
supposed to
given his
save
mission
that.
parameter.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, and
He
I don't
must
know if he
save
goes
the
with it.
616.
Yeah, so
And you must protect it from the multiverse.
Yep.
It's about to come a crashing.
and
But I thought that like the cold open of this book,
Mhm.
and Deadpool is depressed because he has
Yep.
killed the Marvel Universe. It's like nobody else to kill. There's nothing else to do.
mhm,
You
yeah.
know, then and he's sad. He's not quipping anymore.
And Cryptid Zeker 415 said that it was called Deadpool
Hello.
Killustrated was what it was. I said Kills the Classics. So
Ah.
that was the one. That was pretty cool. And these are always kind of a cool deal when you get into them. But this one, I did like just that little wink wink of, hey, I got to get Deadpool to clean up this multiverse. But when you start out, you said he's depressed. Now, with that, it plays a little bit of a funny little twist, I guess, funny. But the idea of like, mental health or things like that, the idea where he's depressed because he doesn't have the voices in his head to get them all, whacked out in pop culture references because he's down in the dumps. It's just him. And he's like, hey, look what happened. I killed them all. When you see this, you don't actually see what he's talking about right away. He has killed like a ton of people. He's destroyed his whole world. And then even later, when this other character, this Nth Man, comes in, the Ultimate Ninja, they have a cool fight. You don't know what's going on. It's a cold open.
Right.
But Deadpool isn't quipping. I think that's kind of the setup here, is the idea that he's not even talking. He's just
He's
fighting.
morose.
Yeah. And he's just like, here we go. Oh, man. And then ends up killing this guy. And then this girl just pops up and says, hey, that was really, really impressive. Hey, and ends up pulling, she throws a katana through his chest. I like when she grabs it and pulls it off and falls down because she has to have such force to get it out. And she says, call me Alfie. and what's happening or whatever. And she's like, you're coming with me. And he's like, I don't want to deal with that. She's like, I need you. I have a task. He's like, no. Then she tries to explain how big it is. And you get a really cool credits page. But he's like, I told you, I already said no. And then you end up where she does end up saying like, well, I want you to kill everybody. He's like, I'm in. So it's the craziest thing, right?
He's left with the Hobson's choice. For those out there in TV land, if you don't know what the Hobson's choice is, here's a good example. My stepfather would send me to the corner store and say, here, go get me a pack of smokes and you can keep the change. Or you can go to the corner store, give me my smokes, and give me back my change.
There you go. I thought it was more of a Sophie's choice.
It was so I could at least keep the change and buy a funny book off the spinner
do
rack.
something. But you go and
that's your choice. You don't have a choice.
The Alfie,
you don't have a choice. There's a literal sea of dead
Oh yeah,
and bad endings, bloody carnage, mayhem. Literal mayhem. Which is a legal term for disfiguring.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're all dead. I mean, there's a sea of Deadpool, and they're all done.
Dead Deadpools.
And then he realizes, and again, to think of how does that happen, the whole healing factor, whatever. But you end up where it's a planet of Deadpools dead, and he's like, oh, you were actually testing me with that Nth Man. She's like, yeah, kind of, but here we go. And what I need you to do is I have this list of people you have to kill, and you're going to go kill. That's very easy. It's very easy to understand. And so when you get into it, the big play is that the first one's Spider-Man. Now they don't say what, when, how, whatever, but he goes and he goes through and he ends up in this multiversal Earth to fight Spider-Man. It ends up being Superior Spider-Man, Doc Ock. So Deadpool says, oh, I've killed Spider-Man a bunch of times. I'm going to go with this. And then when Doc Ock attacks him with the Iron Spider deal, it throws him off. And he's not used to that. And I'm thinking he's just like, oh, it's easy to kill Spider-Man because he's a good guy. It ends up being Doc Ock who takes offense that he says, oh, you're a villain. He's like, no, I just do things, that whole play. But it's kind of a cool play with that. And still in that, Deadpool's not, he's depressed. It feels off. It feels off when you're going. There's a reason, but when you end up where he does look like he's been defeated by Superior Spider-Man, but when he does go, he slaps a sticky grenade on the chest of who doesn't realize this, and he blows up.
The old stick the explosive on my adversary as he's kicking the snot out of me trick. It works every time.
It works every time, but he's beat up. He's beat up, and he even got conked in the head, right through the head.
Says so morosely, even in his font and color for his voice balloons, I need a new mask. He's more like Rorschach right now, tonally. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's just like, but slowly, that's just Act 1. And now we're at the end of Act 1. So opening of Act 2, it's we've got Frankencastle.
Yeah, you get now it's becoming fun in my mind, right?
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frankencastle. When I saw that, I mean, Superior Spider-Man, okay. But when you get on this one page, you actually get Frankencastle, you get Anna Kravinoff, the daughter of Kraven the Hunter, and then also you get the Beast, the demon-possessed Daredevil. I'm like, all right, now this is kind of interesting. Okay. You're going at these alt deals and going through the multiverse and going through these things is pretty cool. Now, you don't get a ton of these fights. Deadpool just kind of rips through there, but he's kind of getting a little bit more funny at one point. But then what happens is when he's done with this, you end up where all of a sudden you get these other word bubbles pop up. He goes back to, the one world. He's got to see what he's going to do next. And he ends up where these voices are going, and they're like, man, hey, that was pretty cool, because you end up where he does say, to Frank Castle, and in a weird synergy, he does kind of cut off, Frank's arms, which we saw that in that Daredevil book this week. And he says, hey, do you need a hand? And he's starting to make jokes and things like that. And then these voices in his head are like, man, that was pretty funny. And so he has these voices going, and now he's back to being full Deadpool. And they say when he got hit, something jarred his brain, that the inner dialogue voices of pop culture references and being funny are back.
Superior Spider-Man put his spider spike through his head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That unlocked his inner monologue again.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Now, with that too, he ends up at points where he's going through and he has this gauntlet that's sending him through. That gets damaged as well in a minute. So it all bets are off, but he ends up where he's in the world where the World Breaker Hulk has pretty much destroyed everybody. He has continued on and destroyed everybody. That's who Deadpool has to kill again. He has got to kill him. And so he's going after him. And again, now you have the quippy deal. And even, and most of the people, it's funny, most of the characters that he goes and faces have actually killed their Deadpool in their world. So they're like, how are you back? I killed you again. And World Breaker Hulk's like, man, I'm going to kill you again. And, the heroes ended up screwing me in this world. Like, gives you a little bit, so you know, but most people would know that are reading it. But yeah, the whole play of them just fighting is pretty cool. And Deadpool ends up, like, he does take a lot of damage, but he ends up going after, and as he's about to kill, it seems, the World Breaker Hulk or get killed, all of a sudden Hulk disappears. He just
I think he was losing
away.
that one.
yeah. And he like zaps out.
Questions. Deadpool versus World Breaker Hulk.
Yeah. It's World Breaker Hulk. Yeah, World Breaker Hulk wins that one. There's no way. But yeah, and you end up where Cryptid Zeker 415 says he wonders if they'll reveal the voices in Deadpool's mind as the villain Madcap. I don't know. I just, it feels like, I don't know even how long this is, but it could be, but the idea it might be manipulating, but he is having some more fun and it feels more Deadpool. And then he gets zapped out and he ends up in what looks like classic deal where you end up having the Avengers. And they're fighting, I think it was Terminus, where they're fighting.
But it's interesting because you have modern, because are we supposed to be able to suss out where this is canonically through the visual cue? Most notably of Thor's outfit, which isn't that specifically like Power Cosmic?
Yep. That's
Herald of Galactus?
Yeah, it might be. And so you'd have to kind of go with it and figure. He says, oh my God, look at this Golden Age superheroes. And the big play, though, is that his gauntlet was damaged.
Wilson and
Yep.
And you've got Carol in her last outfit. She's not. It's not the Sergeant Pepper look.
No.
This is her last. This is her Kelly Sue DeConnick outfit. Okay.
And in that, maybe the play is too that the multiverse and all the things that he's supposed to be destroying is what is affecting the current 616. That's not quite the same as what it should be, because it does look like, and he even says, oh my God, Golden Age superheroes, but it's the Avengers. And then you get this Alfie go in and says, your slider's been damaged. You're not supposed to be here. You're in the wrong place and time. You're in reality 616 to be exact. And he's like, all right, who am I going to kill here? And he wants to kill everybody. She's like, no. And what I thought was going to happen was that she was going to say at the last second, like, no, you're supposed to save them, but the transmission cut off. But it doesn't quite go that way. She says, no, you're supposed to save the 616. And then you have all three voices. Say what now? Say what now? Say what now?
What?
It's like, what you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis?
So you have that, and it's kind of a funny play. So we'll see how that plays out. But I thought it was a pretty cool, first issue. It's not my favorite thing ever, but I thought it was good enough. And I thought, okay, I wouldn't have read it.
I thought it was good enough.
Yeah.
In a way too. I mean, I'm giving her an 8.
Yeah, I'm giving it an 8 as well. I actually like it.
The art. I like the art, the panels. I like the fighting scenes. There were plenty of it. It was fun. A lot of heroic action. Thank you very much. I was trying to say the Similarian.
I think there.
Have you been drinking your breakfast again, Eric?
I think he has. You had a liquid breakfast. Just think of this. I was talking to Gray the other day, Friday night, right? And when obviously but everybody would too. He's from Japan, and so when he's going to bed, we're waking up. That whole opposite deal. So we go and we're doing the absolute DC stuff, and so it's night. He's just waking up and he's having his breakfast as we start, and his breakfast was tuna fish with like a fried egg on toast that almost made me throw up. Just the idea, tuna fish in the morning. And I thought he meant tuna. Like somehow I was like, okay, that's like a tuna steak and maybe, but even that's weird to me. But boy, tuna fish with a fried egg on toast sounds like the most disgusting thing I could ever eat for breakfast. And I want to ask you as a professional chef, what would you think of that?
It depends on the on its presentation and preparation. It could be, slices of sashimi.
No,
You
that's the
know,
thing. I asked him. It was actually traditional tuna fish with mayo, and you're making up the tuna
preparation like tuna
like a
salad.
tuna salad. That's and that
Okay, with a
I
fried egg.
the fried egg on toast for breakfast though is what threw me. It
Sure. I mean,
threw me.
it sounds like a tuna melt
Yeah, it
almost, but
does
he is
almost.
from England too, so
Yeah, he is from England too.
it could be some comfort food. They
Mm.
they eat, beans on toast
Well, I brought
with
that up
HP
while
sauce.
we were talking. I love beans on toast. So I said,
Yeah,
listen, I can't throw shade because I end up loving beans on toast as well. So I might even have some of that when we're done if I can
rasher
figure
sambal.
out how to do
It's
it.
the simple toast, mayonnaise, grilled tomato, and Irish back
Yeah,
bacon.
yeah, you love that.
Nothing else.
You
Oh
like
God.
the bubble and squeak, do you? You
Dude,
like
I never got into that or the black pudding, the blood pudding, and the white
Yeah,
pudding.
yeah,
Dude, my aunties and my mom would fight over that. They'd burn the hell out of it. It was
yeah,
Irish food.
yeah, yeah.
They cooked the hell out of things.
My mom's from England, so we would go to England every year, and I remember the one time because blood sausage does not sound very appetizing.
Ew.
So my
But
grandfather said it doesn't have blood in it; it's just the name. And then as I was eating, he's like, "I was lying; it has blood in it," and I ended up throwing up.
yeah, I know. That's what they. But
Yes.
Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time. It's at least solicited up to 4 issues.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know if it's
I
going
would
5
say
issues.
I would say that it's just that. It's just
The
a
solicit
4-issue
doesn't say
series
final
deal. I
issue
don't know.
wrapping up
We'll
here.
have to see.
There are 11 variant covers for this book,
Yeah.
just to let you know. Beautiful.
And I said it would be
Dandiosian
4. I just think this
125.
is a mini, whatever they've decided, 5, 6, 4, whatever the deciding deal. I don't think
Mhm.
it's an ongoing. These wouldn't be. So, and Mark Howd, thanks a lot. He says tuna egg on toast. That might be too healthy for me. That's why I don't like it. It's too. I'm saying that I'm probably gonna, and it's getting near lunch, so we'll be finishing up. But I'm gonna have some pulled
I'm
pork
having
that I
chicken
made
wings.
yesterday. So
Yeah, I'm having
I'm
buffalo
having
wings
some
and a
pulled
Caesar
pork.
salad. And then for supper, I slow cooked some ribs yesterday. I have a
Oh,
hack for that. Seriously, it's on the top of my cooking playlist.
nice.
It's like the second video in there.
I did use your hack at one point. So
For the
I did
ribs?
say, yeah. At
I
one
made
point I
those
did use
yesterday.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just made pulled pork yesterday in the slow cooker,
Uh-huh.
so I'm gonna be having that. But what would you give this? You give it an 8?
I gave it an 8 because I was impressed with it. It made me smile. It was fun. It
Yeah.
did everything a Marvel superhero comic should be able to do. Entertain, escapism, zero kind of, thought of messaging or agenda or any of the negative stuff.
Mhm.
Or just it's just a Marvel superhero comic book. It's full of action. Great art. You know
I
what I mean?
agree.
Bravo.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, seriously.
I'm gonna go 8.
Congratulations.
I'll go 8 as well. So I did like it. And it was, again, I wouldn't have probably read it, but I did end up liking it. Probably
Mhm.
hear about it on the best of, and I don't know, like the best of. There's it's a weird week again. It's just a weird week. Some of the bigger books, especially at DC and Indie,
Mhm.
didn't come out. So I got to check out some things. I will check out Monkey Meat. So Fear Monarch, if I don't put it on the list, well, I will probably mention it when
Well,
I do
I
the
read
show.
that.
But
I read the Ironheart Bad Chemistry one shot,
okay,
and I thought she was a lot more likable in this than not. I
okay,
mean, like, because I was comparing her to um Moon Girl over,
hmm
because I'm just like, here we
yeah,
have. It seems like a weird week. You also had the Concert of Champions one
yeah,
shot by
yeah,
Jason Liu,
yeah.
and you know what I said about that? I was like,
It works better as a one shot
it
than.
works better as a one shot,
I thought that was
and
backdoor shade. I thought you were meaning, oh, it works better as a one shot because I don't have to read anything else. But a bunch of people
it's true,
told
but
me
it
though
distills.
that it was
I mean, that's
better.
what we're asking for. Like, don't waste our time with too many, like, by
Yeah,
extending this into a 4-issue mini. No. I mean, so it kind of did its job as a story. It really reminded me of like Gem and the Holograms.
okay,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Meets
yeah,
Buffy the. This was like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer spec script,
okay,
and and like here you go, the Slayer Squad and the Scoobies, and it's like, and Dazzler as Buffy.
okay.
And I can totally see Dazzler being Taylor Swift in
Yeah,
this day
yeah.
and
Oh
age.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I
I
think that's
mean,
actually kind of cool.
I think that they kind of push a little, and then they have like
Yeah,
Luna's like a K-pop idol,
yeah. I
things
think
like that. So
so all those things work.
yeah,
I think it's not made for me. I didn't think it was a good book, but I thought it was a story well told
hmm
for what it was. You know, and here it is. We're talking about
There you
Jason Liu. We're
go.
talking about the ridiculous lyrics that are at the end of it. But hey, it's not made for me, man.
Yeah.
But you know,
One of the things that I will, mention that you did say, and something that I ended up saying this week on the DC show, is the idea of characters in the book. You kind of have to like them. You have to like them. And that's one of my biggest problems with the Secret Six book right now at DC, that at the end of it, I'm like, everybody's acting like a jerk. Like, I really don't. And in fact, the only character I like in that book is Black Alice, just because she's making fun of everybody. It was crazy. It was crazy. And I'm sure that as time goes on, people might end up talking about that book more and more, especially on certain YouTube channels, because it does look like the book is revealing that Catman and Deadshot might be lovers. So we'll see how that
oh
hits
my
with
goodness!
people. Yeah, so I think people
Just
end
in
up
time for June, and
people end up getting
covers.
all upset about that. So we'll
Who
see.
cares?
But yeah,
Nobody
I
cares.
don't
I mean, like,
mind.
you
It's
know,
and they're going after Amanda Waller, and
they did
they
a lot
want
of
to
time
kill
together.
him.
You know,
Yeah.
at Bellerive, they
Yeah.
shared a
Oh, they
cell.
were talking
You know
about
what
the
I mean?
idea
Yeah.
of them being in Madagascar. So I don't know if that was
And then
the
the
deal. But
Sopranos, they say they turn a blind eye to that kind of stuff.
yeah, there
But
you
you
go.
know what I mean?
So we'll
You know.
see. We'll see what it means or whatever. But I did hear that when I was reading it, I didn't quite get it. I thought Deadshot was making fun of Catman, but then there was an interview and stuff with that. So I was like, oh, it was above my head. But
Been a
with all
long
of that,
time
yeah.
since those Gail Simone, Dale Eaglesham Secret Six books.
Yeah.
Those were good.
They had a version in the New 52 that wasn't great. And Dale Eaglesham ended up having a stroke kind of in it, so it was delayed. And my buddy Eric, who did the show, he would bitch and moan about it until he found out that he had a stroke. And then he felt bad. He was bitching and moaning, like, when is this book coming back? And they wanted to wait until he was okay. And it eventually did, but the book really never took off. But the original Secret Six was really good. But that's that. So that is it for the show. As I told you, we go to about 12:30, so it was right on time. So we're there. But yeah, check out these books, and like Sully said, with the Rivals, if you have a younger reader and they want to check it out, and if you do, let me know what they thought of it. Let me know what they thought.
Are you a wine aunt? Are you a beer uncle? Well, here's something for your avuncular role in these children's lives.
Yeah,
buy them a funny book today.
So before we go, Sully, let everybody know, because I'm assuming that you will do your show this afternoon, as you do.
Yeah, I believe so. If if all things, if my health holds up.
Yes,
it should be okay.
Exactly. I hope I didn't jinx you.
No, I was on Bandito Bane last night too, and I was hanging out with Gray, and that was fun. And but it'll be my fourth show, this weekend.
Yeah,
and,
that's fun stuff, right?
But yeah, I mean, like, I have fun. Once the camera starts rolling, I start talking. Everything kicks into place.
This week's DC podcast, because the last week's was almost 7 hours long. The week before was 6 something, and then this one, though small, it's like 4.5 hours or so.
Your wife must love this, because
she's
it's
not here.
It's better us than her.
She's in Delaware, so she doesn't care. But yeah, the whole play of this is I ended up where the one show I talked to 13 different people, so it's 13 different recordings, and it's a lot. But yeah, and again,
different perspectives, and you're covering a lot of material, and you have a lot to talk about, and you have now you have an array of different interpretations.
Voices. Yeah, that's what I said. I said it this week because I talked to a couple people that I hadn't talked to before. And when I do, they have, different perspective, and actually convinced me to like some things a little more than I did, coming from a different angle. Because again, I've been reading some of these books and whatever, you read them every week for 10, 15 years, whatever. You kind of get stuck in a rut at points of not liking certain things. But then when you talk to somebody, you kind of, again, Gray getting me to read Moon Knight. I wouldn't have gone back to that. Or you having me read the Deadpool kills, the Marvel Universe. Once again, it ends up picking up where you get to, talk about different things.
Did you check out Pooluminati
last week? Yes, I did. It was okay. It's kind of funny. It was fun.
It's kind of like this. It's just like offbeat, Deadpool being used to his strength, and let her rip kind of shit. And it's like, okay, that worked for me, because it was, once again, over the top. Yeah. Lots of action. Yep.
And I agree.
Decent art, Yeah. And but I'm so psyched. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I'm glad. And this show originally was just going to be like the positive at the end, a weekly show, whatever. But I like talking to you about some of the Marvel stuff. Some of these then get put on our regular Marvel podcast. All that stuff is all swirl around. But tell everybody where they can find you, Sully. I'm sure they know, but let them know.
Well, it's my own name. It's on YouTube, Eric O'Sullivan. That's right, Reverend Sully, for your evangelist of comic books. Should be having my show today, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, the Super Sully Sunday stream, where we will talk about comic books and pop culture stuff. And it's a chill stream. It's a hangout, and
I like that.
And I talk about gratitude during the work week and how it can really improve your life. It can give you some perspective, some purpose, some peace. You can read it's a good lens.
You're relaxing me right
you
now.
You put things into perspective when you focus on what you have instead of focusing on what you don't have.
Okay, so
It's
I
an
have
intrinsic switch.
So I'm going to do it right now. I have extremely bad luck. Does that work? That's what I have. So there you go. Speaking of which, I'll probably mention it more tonight on the best of, because I'll have the best of tonight at 7 here live streaming on YouTube at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tonight. And Gray is going to join me. But
Nice.
yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yesterday was Friday night. My son ended up wrecking our car.
Oof.
And he wasn't hurt, but he ended up, and it was
Thank
like
God.
a no person, and he just lost control of the car, but ended up doing it on this road in town that our son Alex ended up wrecking his car 10 years
for
ago, and that
Whoa.
didn't go well. He still has like rods in his
shit.
his legs and stuff like that, but luckily Rafe wasn't hurt. But again, we had to go get a rental car. The car's to be fixed. It's just everything just hits, and I'm like, what the heck? But he is fine. He was very upset. He actually didn't come home. He thought that I was going to kill him, and I ended up. And I was actually recording the Absolute show with Gray, and for the one time I didn't have my phone with me because we ended up where I was doing stuff. I had to feed the dog, and then I had to run down here to record, and I forgot my phone. So everybody was trying to get a hold of me to tell me what happened, and and I never got the deal. So I get done, and I'm like, okay, I go upstairs, see the phone, and there's like 8 trillion messages. And Rafe thought because I didn't answer, I was mad at him, and he thought I was going to kill him, and I didn't kill him. I was upset at first, but then I was
like,
okay.
hey,
He didn't mean it, but still.
maybe about a month from now when I get the bill.
Yeah, well, think of this too. The car looked pretty bad, and we only have 4 more months left of payments, and I believe that is never going to come. I think that we're going to have to get a new car, but we'll see. And right now it's a great time to buy a new automobile, so we'll see how it goes. But there's my bad luck. But I'll probably mention that to Gray.
Born
tonight
under
as
a
well.
bad sign.
Exactly. I don't know what happened.
If it wasn't
Is
for bad
July
luck.
3rd like a thing? I know Tom Cruise has that birthday with me as well, but I guess it's cursed. I don't know. But there you go. Thank you for joining me once again, Sully. Thanks everybody in the chat as always. And please check out Sully's channel.
Yeah,
the
come
link
on by
is
and
in
subscribe if you're new. Yeah, if you're new to the show, I mean, I'm on a march to make 2,000 subscribers by the end of this calendar year, and I cannot do it without your help. So come on by and subscribe. Subscribe to Jim here at Weird Science, and fill your life full of silly comic stories.
And with that, if you like sus songs, dirty songs, you can go to my sus records deal, but I don't really push that. I won't push that too much, but you can go there. That has its own deal. It's weird. Like the idea of like, man, these comic things, I'm like, yeah, I try so hard, but yet dirty songs. That's where it hits. I'm actually to just give a little deal of how ridiculous it is. I'm pushing towards 42,000 subscribers. That should probably happen in a couple of days is what will be. It's ridiculous. People like dirty songs, I guess, but
people love dirty songs.
Yeah, it seems. But with all that, thanks again, Sully. Look for the deal tonight with our best of, and as well, if you're not into that, I also have a preview show that I'll do live tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going through the books I'm looking forward to this coming up week. But again, thank you so much, Sully. Thanks, everybody. We're going to go out with a, I don't know why I like to do it, but we're going to go out with a Gray AI song that I enjoy. I think you enjoy as well. But thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
しました。本当に大好きです。私は普通の男ではありません。私はもう本性の愛です。私にからかわないでください。そうしないとあなたは消えてしまいます。私は普通の男です。でも私はあなたを殺します。だからそのまま受け取ってください。足元に注意した方がいいよ。準備をしてください。フォローしないと大変なことになりますよ。私に伝わらない。私はあなたを殺します。私は日本の愛です。あなたは警告されました。
さよなら。
Boom.
私は
Done and done.
心で
Let's
すか。
get over to this.